Hello, and welcome to another session at the AI Expo. My name is Ronnie Toerien, and I am the Human Capital Management, Development and Strategy Leader responsible for Africa at Oracle. Today, I want to talk to you about the impact of artificial intelligence, specifically as far as it concerns human resources. So, over the last few years, we've had this perception of what artificial intelligence is, and this has really been extended by what we've seen in movies like The Terminator and Robocop and the like. And the perception is that robotics are a bad thing and they're going to destroy the world and take all of our jobs. In fact, Mark Carney, who was the head of the Bank of England, expected that over 15 million jobs would be lost as a result of artificial intelligence coming into the fray. The reality, however, is that today we live with artificial intelligence all day and every day in our homes, in our lives. We have things like Alexa from Amazon, we've got Cortana from Microsoft, we have Siri from Apple. Everybody has a smartphone, but they use various devices on there. We even have Sophie, who in Saudi Arabia became the first artificial intelligence citizen. So the reality is that artificial intelligence is around us all the time. So what we're seeing from a business perspective is this amalgamation of people, data, and machines. And everything around us, whether it's a structure, community, system, all of our enterprises are really becoming ecosystems where people, data, and machines are all connected and building a synergy that is getting smarter all the time. So this is where we're actually seeing ourselves today. This fear about computers in the world and the impact that AI is going to have, really we need to understand what is it that computers or artificial intelligence or robotics can do better than we can, and what are the things that humans can do that computers can't do. So for example, computers are very, very good at calculating at high speed. They have great memory capacity, error-free processing capabilities. They have the ability to multitask. But there are certain non-routine practical jobs that humans do that can never be replaced by computers. Think about hairdressing for the ladies that are on the call. You certainly wouldn't want a computer to be hairstyling your hair or cooking your food for you. Computers are not particularly good at reading facial expressions or doing language translations. Basic things like writing and conversation, art and music are really things that computers don't excel in. So really what we need to be looking at is how do we take the best of each of these worlds and put them together in a synergy that actually makes sense from a business perspective. So if we talk about the role of artificial intelligence, essentially what we are looking at is how do we use this artificial intelligence to augment humanity and allow us to improve our decision-making process. In other words, how do we make decisions more quickly, more accurately? And the bottom line is, how do we improve our business capabilities using the synergy between artificial intelligence and the human factor in there? So we've already seen that AI is changing the relationship between people and the technology today. We have over 50% of workers currently using some form of artificial intelligence at work in comparison to only 32% last year. And in some countries, the adoption of artificial intelligence is twice as much as in other areas. 65% of workers are optimistic and even excited about having robotic co-workers with them, and they can see the benefits that it's going to bring to them as individuals and also the benefits that it's going to bring to organizations. Interestingly enough, workers trust robots sometimes more than they trust their managers. And again, a survey that was done found that 64% of people would trust a robot more than their manager, and half have turned to a robot instead of their manager looking for advice going forward. 82% of people think robots can do things better than their managers. Not everything, but some things. So In the survey, we asked them what do they think robots can do, artificial intelligence can do better. And things like delegation of work, managing a budget, maintaining work schedules, providing unbiased information came out in favor of artificial intelligence. Whereas if we look at the emotional intelligence side of things, the capacity to understand my feelings, being able to coach me, creating a work culture that is conducive to enhancing performance in an organization, doing problem solving and oversight and providing direction are things that still require more emotional intelligence than artificial intelligence going forward. So when we start talking about artificial intelligence, or at Oracle, we like to refer to it as adaptive intelligence, becoming more and more pervasive, we're seeing remarkable inventions that are actually being created as a result of the artificial intelligence. The reality is that artificial intelligence is made up of a number of different components. So we have robotics, chatbot capabilities, so we can extend our channels of communication. We have connected devices where I can use, by way of an example, a Fitbit where I can monitor the health and safety of my employees. We're looking at things like augmented reality, where we can start increasing perceptions and also put people into safe environments when we're training them or when we need to get them into an environment that they're not familiar with. And then we also use trusted transactions. We look at things like blockchains where I can get faster, more accurate information available. So these are some of the components that make up artificial intelligence. If we look at it from a human capital management perspective, we look at things like intelligent bots that are being used for HR self-service, and particularly in a recruitment environment where we're looking at improving the candidate experience. Internet of Things, we talked about the connected worker, effectively where I can have visibility into the safety of my employees. We have machine learning where we can start doing predictive analytics and starting to understand what if scenarios and what the impact of that is going to be on a business environment. And then finally, using things like blockchain, we can do validation of employee qualifications and education, as well as their work history going forward. So there are different components of artificial intelligence that we can start incorporating in our HR environment. To give you some examples of where we're actually using this in our environment, we're using AI to start screening our applicants in the recruitment process. So we can quickly go through thousands of CVs using artificial intelligence, machine learning, to screen specific applicants to make sure that they have the requirements that we're actually looking for. We're also looking at reducing human errors to increase our compliance. So again, we can check to see whether there's any conflict of interest in terms of who has access to payroll information, who can input information to the payroll, and who can actually run the payroll. So we're using that to increase our compliance and make sure we're reducing our errors. Dashboards now are becoming incredibly useful to management and executives in the organization. And what we look at is real-time analytical dashboards that is giving the information about where we stand today rather than going into reporting, which inherently is looking back in the past. These dashboards give us real-time information. And we can start using that using predictive analytics with machine learning capability, where we can start looking at what the risk is of attrition in our organization and whether these are high value employees who are high performers. And then we can start predicting if I do make any changes within my organization, what is the impact of that going to be? And then chatbot capability to start assuming some of the administrative tasks that we traditionally carry as an HR organization, which is very admin intensive. We can hand over that administrative functionality to chatbot capability. If we look at it specifically, drilling down into machine learning in HR, again, we can use this to facilitate mapping career plans for employees. So what are your aspirations? What opportunities are there? and what are the things that you're going to need to have in place in order to move into the next level of career. We can start predicting what our future talent needs are based on the organization. So what are the organization's strategies? Where are they going? What are the objectives and goals of the organization? And what are the talent requirements that we have? And machine learning will allow us to start predicting that information. We've touched on the capability of streamlining the recruitment process. So again, machine learning can identify suitable candidates very, very quickly. We also use machine learning to transform the candidate experience. So a candidate applying for a position, the system could actually have a look to see whether that candidate is suitable for the role they're actually applying and whether there's possibly an alternative role that might be more suitable for the candidate. So really, it's all about how do we enhance the decision-making capabilities within the organization, and machine learning gives us that capability to do that. Another area that we're looking at, and we touched on the chatbot capability, but we're also seeing video messaging capabilities. So the way people are actually starting to interact with the system, we at Oracle believe that the best user interface is no interface whatsoever. So if we start looking at chatbot capability, where I use my mobile device to actually start communicating with the system, asking it specific questions, and it interrogates the system and the database for me without me having to navigate my way through the system. Video messaging is becoming very popular, where we're now starting to use the technologies that are available in mobile to communicate with each other. And then we also have things like augmented reality, where we can do on-the-job training as we're going through a particular process in our roles going forward. So the whole idea of this artificial intelligence enhancement is really to automate the routine things. So, the simple questions like what time are your stores opening hours? Or how much leave do I currently have? Or simple questions like that come in on an ongoing, regular basis can actually be handled by robotics. And those things which require a little bit more expertise to answer can now be handed over to a human being, an employee within the organization. So the way we interact with systems and with organizations can be twofold. This basic routine things we handle through chatbot capability, and any advanced or things that require complex responses are handed over to subject matter experts. So again, from an HR perspective, how do we use chatbot capabilities? So we have the ability for HR managers to get information around employees. So for example, how much leave does Jerry have? The system interrogates the database, comes back and it says, Jerry has 2 weeks leave. How about Tina? Tina is currently on negative balance. From an employee need, they can find out information fairly quickly that is relevant to them. So for example, I'm looking to change my medical aid or my healthcare. What is the most popular plan within the organization? Again, the system gets interrogated by the bot, and it comes back with a response and can even give you a link to how you can find out more information. And from a manager perspective, what is the tenure of our software developers, in which particular groups, over what period of time? So all of these typically routine type questions can very easily be answered using chatbot capability. Something that we're starting to see more and more of more recently is the concept of video interviewing. So the new generation are not comfortable putting together a resume or a CV, but are more confident and comfortable doing a video interview, much the same as they would have a chat on a Skype or a Zoom or any other form of communication that they have. And we can use video interviewing capabilities to start posing questions like, describe your typical day, how do you manage your calendar, what changes are you trying to put in place? And you can see the response from the individual as they're responding to that. One of the interesting benefits that we've actually seen coming out of this is that a lot of the communication that actually happens is not done just verbally, but visually as well. So we can now see how people are responding and reacting to questions that are being asked of them. So it's giving us a better experience as recruiters as well in terms of determining suitability of candidates. We talked a little bit about virtual reality earlier. Where we're seeing this being used in an HR world typically is during our induction process, where prior to the candidate actually joining the organization, we can take them through a walkthrough of our offices, show them where the HR department is, where IT department is, where they go to security to collect their badges, etc., etc. But it can be used also in a learning environment where we can take people through a simulation of a particular process that it is that we want them to learn, and we do it in a very safe and comfortable environment. On the flip side of that, we have what is referred to as augmented reality. So with virtual reality, you are not in a real world, you are in a simulation, and you are being trained in here. With augmented reality, what it does is it puts you in a real world environment, but it facilitates what it is that you need to do in terms of a business process. So the example that we have on screen is somebody working in a warehouse where they have to pick certain items. You can actually use this augmented reality to take them through the process, tell them where the objects are that they need to collect, how much further they still need to go, what is available, what isn't available. So it's enhancing their work without having to go through continuous training on an ongoing basis. So these are just two examples of virtual reality and augmented reality that we're seeing today. Another interesting aspect that we're seeing coming to the fore is building gamification into our business processes. We're specifically seeing it in organizations around their recruiting process. So the gaming industry has some really, really surprising facts. So if we look at some of the averages, and these are American averages, unfortunately Oracle is an American company, so a lot of the statistics I have actually come from America. But what they've actually found, according to the Entertainment Software Association, is that 59% of Americans play video games in some form or another. And they spend in excess of $21.5 billion in games and hardware every single year. The sort of things that they're purchasing are games, on add-ons, mobile apps, subscriptions, and so on, which account for about just over half of all of the sales. What was very surprising for me is that 48% of all gamers are actually women. In fact, women over 18 account for 36% of the gaming population. And you would have expected that males under the age of 18 would be the dominant players in this particular era, but they only make up 17%. The average gamer's age is around 31 years, and they've been playing computer games or video games for somewhere in the order of 14 years already. So Blizzard Entertainment actually took this idea up and teamed up with Careerify to create a scenario where they could use gamification as part of their employee referral program. So this has actually allowed them to become an employer of choice, where individuals actually want to join the organization because of the way that they actually run their referral program. So basically the way it works is that you receive swag items or specific items during the various stages of the interview process. And it takes you through this marathon within the referral process, and it keeps you engaged because you're continually earning credits and items during the process. And what they do is the further you get into the process, the more limited the quantity of those items are, and it creates excitement and bragging rights within the organization. And everybody really tries to get those particular items as bragging items within the organization. So it's actually not that difficult to gamify talent acquisition within your organization. The hardest part is making sure that you're engaging with your employees, but it is essential. You need to understand what are the things that would be of interest to them, what is the culture in the organization. So you start off by doing surveys, doing feedbacks, doing referrals, looking at your employee brand, and so on. Although we talk about this specifically from a talent acquisition perspective, you can also use this for learning, for performance management, or just generally increasing employee engagement. So really, you need to start thinking about what is the culture of your organization and what is the culture of the end user. What is it that you're actually trying to achieve out of this gamification? And then start setting up small challenges for them to start achieving the various prizes. It may be something as simple as a Starbucks coffee for completing a certain process. You also need to understand why would the user care about achieving these particular things. If you are making the prizes or the rewards for participation something that isn't of interest to them, you're probably not going to get buy-in. And then really thinking about how can you make this more competitive going forward. So we've been talking about robotics and the impact that it's having, and are robots becoming more human? The flip side of the coin is potentially are humans becoming more like robots? And we look at technologies that are available today already. So if we think about biotechnology, we have people that are using artificial limbs to enhance their lives, being able to write or to walk using biotechnologies. And we need to start thinking about what are the enhancements that that could bring to us as an organization and as a business. And if we take it a little bit further, we have areas around nanotechnology where we can start using robotic implants within people, where potentially you could have a chip inserted and climb onto a plane to Paris, and by the time you land the next morning, you could be fluent in French. And this is really where technology is heading. And although we started looking at things like virtual reality and a blockchain and machine learning, these are areas that we really need to be looking at and start touching on going forward. So that was what I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found it interesting. I hope it's been thought-provoking. There is a Q&A session that is being set up, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the expo, and hopefully we will see you again soon. Thank you.